Okay, sorry for the delay starting. We had a long closed session, and we're actually going to have to reconvene to closed session after open session. So just to... right, so we're just going to report out of closed session. Just now, the board voted to uphold an in-school suspension. That is all we have to report so far for closed session. And we're going to reconvene for the last two items after this. So now, I'll wait. Now we are going to be adjourning to open session. It is 7:31, today Tuesday the 14th of January, and we'd like to have a call to order, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Shepard.
Here.
Student Trustee Devdar.
Here.
Trustee Enkelis. Trustee Khan.
Here.
Trustee Davidson.
Here.
Vice President Mahoney.
Here.
President Hopwood.
Here.
Superintendent Stoughton.
Here. And now we will read the AUSD mission and vision statement and meeting norms, if the student trustees would like to do that.
The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Meeting norms. Maintain a focus on what is best for our students. Ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, the staff, and the public respectfully. Endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for our students. Make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their own points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you. And now Vice President Mahoney will lead the Pledge of Allegiance for those who'd like to participate. Thanks. And I got ahead of myself before, but report of action taken in closed session was that we voted to uphold an in-school suspension. And now we're moving on to item 5, which is approval of the agenda. And we have some changes. Does anyone have any changes other than the ones that I'm about to propose? Right, we are hoping to move item 13, nope, hang on, where are we? 13B, to have, which is under review and action. So we'd like to bring that forward to before the staff report, was that right, Julie? Item 13B. Sorry, I've got too many.
After the staff report.
After the staff report,
Yes.
Great. And then also, we are going to pull the staff report. So 13B will actually be where 11 is, yes, currently on the agenda. Okay, thank you. Right, so...
I just ask, is there a reason that we're pulling the staff report?
So we don't have the information currently, is that right?
The person who is supposed to come and provide the report is unable to come tonight.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll have to reschedule it.
So moving on, item 6 is reading of resolution from... Oh, yes, sorry, we do, you're right. So we need to approve the agenda with the changes that I have just mentioned. So would somebody like to make a motion to approve it?
I move to approve the agenda with the following changes, moving the, what number is that? Item 13B to number 11, and knowing that we will reschedule item 11A. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, then moving on to item 6, recognition. So in 2017, the board at the time passed a resolution, literally trying to find all my piece of paper. Here we go. To recognise Albany Unified School District as a safe haven school district. That was after the November 2016 presidential election, and Superintendent Stone suggested, and I'm very happy with this idea, that we should reaffirm our commitment as a school district, as a safe haven school district. So we are just going to read the 2017 resolution. We could start with our student trustee Shepherd, and if you just read the first three whereases, and then student trustee Diarra could do the next three, and we'll just go in threes, whether it's a whereas or a bullet point, if that's okay.
Resolution number 2016-17-13, recognition of Albany Unified School District as a safe haven school district. Whereas the Albany Unified School District Board of Education is committed to the success of all students in respective of their immigration status, ethnicity, race, religion, sexual orientation, ability, sex, and gender identity, socioeconomic status, or beliefs. Whereas the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America recognizes every individual's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whereas the United States of America was built by diverse peoples, both native and immigrant alike.
Whereas education has played a critical role in furthering tolerance and strengthening our society. Whereas on November 8th, 2016, voters in California and across the nation participated in the democratic process by casting votes. Whereas California voters during the 2016 general election expressed strong support for public schools by embracing bilingual education through Proposition 58, strengthening funding sources through Proposition 55, and modernizing school facilities through Proposition 51.
Whereas 37 different languages are spoken in Albany Unified School District schools, including Spanish, Korean, Farsi, Tagalog, Mandarin, Cantonese, French, Vietnamese, Arabic, and Russian. Whereas 16% of students in Albany Unified are of Latina descent, at least 18% are English language learners, and 17% qualify for free and reduced lunch. Whereas the national presidential election has resulted in thousands of students and families in the San Francisco Bay Area expressing fear, sadness, and concern for student safety, heightened because of intolerant rhetoric and over the course of the 2016 presidential race.
Youth and families across the San Francisco Bay Area have already expressed increased levels of hate speech based on their ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation since the election. Now, therefore, be it resolved. Do you want me to read the result? Okay. That the Albany Unified Board of Education directs the superintendent to support the creation of a safe haven school district. This status shall include promoting tolerance and acceptance over speech promoting hate, designating AUSD school sites and facilities as sensitive locations for students, families, and the community in accordance with Immigration and Custom Enforcement 2011 policy stating that it will not conduct immigration enforcement activities by specific federal law enforcement officials at any sensitive locations without permission unless, I don't know how to pronounce it, exigent circumstances exist. Okay.
Maintaining that in compliance with the above referenced ICE policy, ICE shall not be allowed to enter school sites or district properties without prior written approval from the superintendent when the superintendent determines upon consultation as appropriate with district legal counsel that acquiescence to the requested entry is required by law. Taking care to not include any information in our school files that could be used to ascertain the immigration or citizenship status of students. Allocating adequate resources necessary to support diversity, inclusion, and the values of a multicultural society.
Sure. Endorsing a set of unifying activities determined by the school site. Resolve further that the Albany Unified School Board works closely with the city, county, and other state and local municipalities and community organizations to ensure our students and families are offered a protected space. Resolved further that the board reaffirms its focus on promoting and elevating tolerance, inclusiveness, and kindness of all students, families, and staff at all district school sites, facilities, and material property.
Resolved further that the board reaffirm the authority of the superintendent to protect the data and identity of any student, family member, or school employee who may be adversely affected by any future policies or executive action that results in the collection of any personally identifiable information to the fullest extent provided by the law. Resolved further that district staff are instructed to respond to requests for information about students from law enforcement personnel, including immigration enforcement personnel, only by referring such requests to the superintendent or the superintendent's designee, unless there is an immediate threat to public safety. Resolved further that AUSD will not disclose personally identifiable information in a student's educational records to outside agencies without written parental consent, judicial order, or lawfully issued subpoena. Resolved further that the board reaffirms Albany Unified School District's unequivocal commitment to ensuring a safe educational environment for all students, including for students and their families threatened by immigration enforcement or discrimination, to the fullest extent provided by the law. And finally, be it resolved that this resolution be communicated to AUSD students, parents, and staff members, and to the Albany, California community at large. And that resolution was passed and adopted on the 14th of February 2017. And we just really wanted to restate and reaffirm this district's commitment to our students, to all of our students. So now we can move on to our spotlight, which is from the Albany Aquatic Centre.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Drew Nelson. I have been the aquatic director since April 2022, and been working since October 2012, so I have quite a bit of history of the Aquatic Center. There we are. And there it is. All right, ready for the next slide? All right, so the mission at the Aquatic Center is to strive and promote a healthy lifestyle through knowledge of swimming and water fitness principles. We work to create a welcoming, safe environment for students in the entire community. So we do our best to open it up as much as we can for various different programs, people, whether they are 6 months old or 90 years old. We try and open up for everyone. Okay. Currently, staffing-wise, we did have about 85 last year. We're about 119, and those are, total everyone on staff. Regular working is somewhere around 85, originally 72. Most of these are high school students. Some are in college as well. Those typically are in the morning. Students work roughly 1 to 3 days a week at 2.5 to 4 hour shifts, whether it be lifeguarding or swim lessons. So they are very busy. So we have a lot of partners at the Aquatic Center. Albany Armada Aquatics, those are the swim team, the youth, and the masters. Physical Therapy Innovations, they obviously are physical therapy in the water, and so that's a great program for recovery. Making Waves Fat Swim, a time for people to come swim at the pool who are 200 plus pound size and normalize that type of person. SNAP, Special Needs Aquatic Program, kids with developmental disabilities or various other things coming to swim at our facility, the world's largest swim lesson, a cool different program we added last summer. San Francisco Underwater Rugby, very cool. And then Golden State Deep End Fitness, so a lot of different programs that we have. So on the right side at the top is our physical therapy. They've actually been at the facility when it was, before it was rebuilt. SNAP came in last year, I believe, is when they recently joined. Albany Armada Aquatics has about 120 swimmers. Those are the youth. About 40 of them are residents of Albany. It is owned and run by Helen Garcia, Jesus, her brother, is the co-owner as well. They have a master's group as well, which has about 52 swimmers, and I think it was about 12 that are 65-plus-year-old swimmers. So they swim every day of the week as of right now. The picture on the right is our Making Waves Fat Swim. They are Sundays, and they have been swimming at the pool since 1995. So they've been here quite a while. They were an hour and a half. They've switched down to about an hour on Sundays. So it's a great program. Albany Community Triathlon. Albany Boosters does this program, and every year I participated myself, and it's about 17 bike laps around the whole area, and then 3 laps of running, and then 17 laps in the pool, and had a lot of people. It was a great program. So for our school and student programs, we have the Albany High School Swim Team, Albany High School Women's Water Polo, Albany High School Physical Education, or PE, Albany Swims, and Aqua Camp. Picture on the right is our high school swim team, who swims. They're going to be starting here in February, early February. On the left, we have our Albany High School women's water polo, and they are a fall sport. And on our right is PE, and again, they're fall as well. They have, I think it's on Wednesday, it's 3 groups, and then on Tuesday, 4 groups. And a lot of kids are at the point now that they're swimming, because after the pandemic, there was quite a few that didn't, and as we've gone, most of them are now swimming, and they do water polo as well during the physical education. So different programs. So Albany Swims, partnership with the City of Albany. The grant provides funding for low-income students in grades 1 through 3, about 118 kids total served. Might be about that many, maybe more next year. It just depends on various factors. So it's a great program for that. Comparison from last year and this year. Let's take a look-see. So for swim lessons, we had 1,340 total classes. This year, 1,888, which is 40% more. And then an average of around 5.5 kids brings us to 10,384 from 7,370. So that indoor pool gets a lot of use, as you can see from this. Aqua Camp, 209 aqua campers. We increased it to 332 last summer. And then we added junior lifeguards, 71. Next year, we're probably going to be expanded just a hair more as well. So it's different programs, as you can see on the right, learning different skills, including CPR, first aid, and such like that. Upcoming, we had the Orca Water Polo running at the Aquatic Center. We are now going to have the coach who was doing it run Albany Community Water Polo at the Aquatic Center, so we're adding a different program. It starts officially on the 25th. Indoors will be for the younger kids on Thursdays and Saturdays for the older kids as a team. And then we have open water scuba classes through Pacific Ocean Water Sports. We had 3 classes last year, 1 tri-kid scuba, and next year we plan on having 7 classes. So it is expanding for sure. On the picture in there, on the very right, is actually one of my aquatic manager, Jeff. In the center is one of my coordinators, Eric. And then Alex, who had his daughter does lessons, is on that top left as well, and then various other people, as you can see. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
No comments or questions? It's great to see how much you're what's the word, like swimmership has increased since the pandemic. But no, well done. That's a great improvement.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? No? Thank you so much for coming.
Have a good one.
Okay, so now we're moving on to item 8, student board member reports.
Okay. At Albany High School, on the first Saturday of winter break, varsity boys basketball held the Frank Wells tournament at Cougar Gym. Albany Cougars got first place and many players won special recognition awards. Final grades for fall semester have been released and uploaded onto Aries.
At the middle school this Friday, AMS is holding a spelling bee, which starts at 3:10 and goes until 5 p.m. in the AMS library.
At Marin this Thursday, January 16th, is Family Math Night from 6:15 to 7:30 p.m. in the multipurpose room.
At the SSC, the Student Advocacy Committee is currently working with Dr. Shin to conduct elementary school site visits. We have drafted all our survey questions, and we are planning to find a date to go to all the 3 elementary campuses, which we will use the results from that and our student engagement survey to create a presentation to present to the board at the end of the year. And that concludes our student board member report.
Great, thank you so much. We're now moving on to item 9, which is public comment for matters not on the agenda. And just before we get started on that, I just wanted to mention that, we welcome attendance and comments from the public at our meetings. But we need to remind folks that for matters not on the agenda, the Brown Act restricts our ability to respond. So we're really just able to acknowledge your comments and note them. If there's an issue you'd like to bring to our attention, please could you consider emailing the board and superintendent, and you can reach all of us in one email by sending an email to boardofed@ausdk12.org, and you'll receive a reply in that case. Thank you. And with that being said, does anybody have a public comment? Yep, no, seeing none. We're now going to move on to approval of the consent calendar, which is item 10. Does anybody have comment on the consent calendar in the public? Not seeing anyone. Is anybody willing to move to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry. Sorry. I was just trying to pull up some of the items in here. We're approving like a job description for water sports instructor. For some reason, I'm not able to. Oh, there it just came up. Okay. My internet's taking a long time. I just want to make sure that we could see all the parts in here because I was not able to see it before. Okay. Thank you. Then aye. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, so that was all in favor. Thank you. And now we are going to move to item 13B, which is a resolution to declare results of the school bond election. And here's Chris Thomas.
Good evening. You can always tell when there's a tall person here. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to Lauren Herrera of Oric, Harrington, and Sutcliffe. She's our bond counsel, and she's going to come here and speak to us tonight about our next step, which is really for the board to consider the resolution that we have before you and accepting the results of the election. So, Lauren? She's also going to touch on some next steps for the board to consider.
Good evening, members of the board. The resolution that you have before you tonight accomplishes 2 major things.
We just moved the item above it.
Sorry about that. Yeah. No, please. So the resolution before you accomplishes 2 major things. The first is to fulfill your statutory obligation to declare and certify the results of the election. And so attached to the resolution as Exhibit A are the certified election results that have been provided by the County of Albany, or sorry, the County of Alameda. And the second is to initiate the process of establishing a Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and adopt bylaws for their governance. And so attached as Exhibit B to the resolution are the form of bylaws that will serve to govern the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. I'll mention that there is an existing oversight committee for the current bond measures that are active within the district. And so the oversight committee to be used to govern the Measure L bond program will be the same that's used for the existing bond programs. So I'll pause there to see if there are any questions before kind of mentioning what the next steps for the Measure L bond program will be. Okay, great. And so I'll just briefly mention for the next steps for the Measure L bond program, the district will initiate the process of soliciting applications for membership on the oversight committee, go through a process of reviewing those applications and determining which people to appoint to membership on the committee, allowing them to hold an inaugural meeting likely in late winter or early spring. And then the next steps for the program really will be the process of evaluating what project needs there are consistent with the bond project list that was included in the bond measure, revisiting the needs assessment that had been approved by this board in May 2024, perhaps revisiting the facilities master plan that's on file with the district and that in part helped determine what the needs assessment included, and then go through a process of assembling a design team, including architects, engineers, contractors, putting together any necessary requests for proposals for folks that will assist in completion of bond projects, and then working with consultants to develop a timeline for issuance for completion of projects. So again, I'll just pause to see if there's any questions about those next steps. Great. I appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to read the terms of the resolution? And does anybody want to make a motion to pass this resolution? Oh, yeah. Anybody have comments from the public about this? Seeing none. I'd like to.
I move to approve resolution number 2024-25-11, declaring results of and certifying proceedings of school board election held on November 5th, 2024.
I second the motion.
So we have to do a roll call.
Yes, and because of the rotation, we're starting with Trustee Davidson, but I'm going to start first with the student board members. Student board member Shepherd.
Yes.
Student board member Debdor.
Yes.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Vice President Mahoney.
Yes.
President Hopwood.
Yes.
Trustee Inkles.
Yes.
Trustee Khan.
Yes.
Thanks.
Great, so the resolution passes unanimously. And now, sorry, it's all back to front because we did move things around. We are moving to review and discussion, 12A, which is Superintendent Stone's 90-day plan. So hand it over to Superintendent Stone.
All right, thank you so much. I am going to start my slideshow. All right, good evening, trustees and community. I'm excited to share my vision of my first 90 days, which started December 2nd. So I'm already in the middle of this. As we know, our mission is very clear. We're here to provide excellent academic instruction that empowers all of our students to reach their fullest potential and be productive citizens. And in order to do that, we're committed to creating comprehensive learning environments that are safe and supportive and collaborative. For this, what I realized is that this is actually my driver for my 90-day plan. And what that means is in my first 90 days and beyond, obviously my job now is to ensure that this mission is realized. And what that really means for me is if you look at the bottom of this slide deck, that I'm working to figure out how we're empowering potential, building community, and inspiring excellence. So tonight I'm going to share what I will be accomplishing between December 2nd and April 4th. And for those of you who are mathematicians, you'll notice that that is actually probably a little more than 90 days, but I'm hoping that you'll give me some weekends off so that these are actually work days. But really the goal is to build trust. I think at the core, that is what I need to do in these 90 days. I need to identify where there are some assets and strengths within the program that we are currently offering, as well as any needs. Identify those systemic needs that I can improve upon, and develop some clear goals for the remainder of this school year as we bridge to next year, and some progress monitoring tools and systems for that. So my next steps that I'll talk about tonight are refining those priorities and then presenting those findings in April. So the purpose of a 90-day plan for anyone who comes into a system as the leader is to really have a structured approach to the onboarding. Focus on those relationships and look at the data and create some strategy. My hope is that by engaging constituents and looking at the key data and reviewing our systems, that again, I'll be able to identify really clearly what are our assets and what are some inequities and opportunities. And by synthesizing the feedback into actionable priorities, I not only will be able to show that I've heard what people have to say, that I believe what people have to say, and I also am looking at our data, and that it's really going to set a foundation for the work that I'm going to do beyond the 90 days to create equity for our community. So this model right here, the 6-circle model, was introduced by Steve Zweiback and Tim Dalmau, and featured in Margaret Wheatley's work. These are some of the people that these are researchers and educators that I value. And I wanted to bring that into this conversation. And it is, if you were to try to figure out what Sarah Stone's brain looks like, that is my brain. I really use this all the time as I'm thinking about what we do. And so this model, and it's been adapted by the National Equity Project to have a 7th circle. But really what this is about how are we creating systems that are truly equitable and that are interrupting systemic oppression within this kind of the circle of human experience. And so as humans, we need definitely these 6, they're not really circles, as Chris pointed out to me. They're actually ovals or something else, but they're supposed to be circles. But these 6 circles are really important. So below the green line is everything that's important to your relational experience. You need to have information. We all know that in absence of information, we make up our own stories. So it's really important, again, that we have the best and most accurate information, that we're consistently working towards building relationships, and that we're interrogating and understanding our own identity and the identity of others. So that's the relational piece. Above the green line is more of the technical pieces, and that is where you can start to look at patterns, you can understand the processes that are at play, and build structure. And so the 90 days, the way that I organize my 90 days is to really do both of these things, the above and below the green line, consistently throughout those 90 days, so that I can really get to that 7th circle, which again is around how are we creating the best opportunity for our students, and how are we shifting things that need to be shifted so that we're creating true equity for all of our kids. We're centering our most historically marginalized, racialized communities in the work. So again, I've said this a few times, but my key goals are really relationship building, relationships. We know that culture, there's this term, culture eats strategy for breakfast, which is true. If you don't start with culture, you're really not going to be able to get to the strategy piece. And that's actually what that 6-circle model says. Going deeper into our data, what data I'm able to review that's more numerical and more of the data that we have around what people have to say. It also is reviewing documents and prior information, prior board meetings, prior policies, basically everything that I can. And I've really started that work, and I had actually the gift of the 2 weeks of the December break to spend a lot of time digging in to some of these things. And then it's about creating some strategic alignment. So developing really actionable priorities that align with our mission, and creating a common vision and thinking about long-term goals. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that is actually not just at the end of the 90 days, but that's actually the work of next year, but we're starting it now. So, timeline. Some of the highlights, December through March is my time really to do a lot of constituent engagement. I've already started one-to-ones. I've met with groups of people. I'm going into schools. I'm visiting classrooms. I'm getting as much feedback as I possibly can. I did have the opportunity. My goal was to start with kids, and I feel like I've met that goal. Last Friday, I was able to meet with students from the high school, from the young men and women's of color group, as well as students from McGregor. And I had just an incredible, it was an incredible way to really get good information. I've started one-to-ones with teachers and staff. I was able to meet, actually, was it yesterday? This week is already? Okay, it's Tuesday. I was able to meet with many, many people over the last 2 days, including our maintenance and operations team, which was also really illuminating and empowering. And I'm going to encourage people to continue to reach out to me through our executive assistant, Julie Sens, just to make sure that everyone who wants to meet with me in terms of our staff and our students is able to do so. I'll also be starting to have, to go to and have engagements with families through our family affinity spaces and our PTAs and other family groups. Also meeting with community outside of AUSD. As much as I can in this time frame. December through April is also where because I'm gathering this data, at the same time starting to think about what are the strategies that need to be put into place based on this information and through those partnership developments. I was able to actually start the data analysis before January, but I'm trying to go deeper into more of our quantitative data that we have over the month of January through April, and I'd like to look at current data. So we're in the process right now of starting FastBridge, which is some of our data. So once that's done, I'll be able to take a look at it and see from an academic perspective where we are. And March through April is really coming up with that common vision based on what I'm hearing and what the information is telling us, what the patterns are telling us, and start to implement some sort of progress monitoring around some of those pieces. And I just want to say that none of this is me alone in a room. This is not being done in a vacuum, that I'm working with team around all of this. I worked very hard on this Gantt chart, so I had to put it in here, even though it's really hard to see. I will never do this again. But anyway, these are kind of the details of what I think I'm going to be able to accomplish and when. And another way to look at it, just how constituent engagements are some of the goals in those constituent engagements a little bit more detailed. I just mentioned this, but this is just another way to see it. Yeah, so these are the goals behind those areas. Just want to, again, highlight that for me, I think, and it's at the center here, is building trust and partnerships is really at the core of this time. All right, so some expected outcomes, strengthen relationships and trust across all district, clear identification of some systemic inequities and resource gaps, some initial short and long-term priorities that address our student achievement, equity, and well-being, and a foundation for creating a strategic plan, which we will continue and which really is the work, I believe, of next year. Our current strategic plan, I think, was written in 2016, and it's time to create a new one. Our strategic plan and our local, our LCAP, our local control accountability plan. Sorry, I'm like, don't use acronyms. Those should be the same, one and the same, and I think that they're, because of how LCAP is, how we're supposed to write LCAP, some things actually end up missing from it that we need to add. And so I want to make sure that we're really shoring that up and that what we are finding in terms of our data and what needs we have is really in the most recent LCAP addendum that we create. But our strategic plan and LCAP should be the same. So some deliverables, I'm not going to go through each and every bullet point, but ultimately I will be delivering an engagement report to the board. What were the patterns? What did we hear? A report of what the data is telling us and what we might need to put in place in terms of systems, and a draft of some strategic goals, actions, and priorities based on the information that I receive that will help us, I think, move towards a more robust strategic planning process next year, but kind of gives us the groundwork. And a progress monitoring system that we can start to use so that we're just consistently going back and looking at if these are our goals, actions, priorities, these are and what are the metrics that we said we're going to be reviewing, then we need a really clear system that's helping us to monitor that over time. And that is something that we would be doing regularly at board meetings as well. So my next steps are, I'm going to continue meeting with people and hearing. I will be presenting my findings to the board in April. And again, developing a really transparent system to track progress on our goals. I think that, okay, that's it. I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, good. It worked.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much. And thank you for all you're doing.
Of course.
Do we have any public comment following that? Oh, yes, of course. Any questions or comments from the board?
Sure, I'll ask a question.
Go for it.
Super comprehensive, lots of stuff. I, as in my line of work, we often deal with unlimited wants and limited time. As you think about what you're trying to get done in the next 90 days, what didn't make it into the plan, and why not?
It's a good question. As you can see, I kind of kept this plan very surface level because the truth is I don't know what I don't know. And so I could have thoughts and ideas, and I do have thoughts and ideas already. But I want to make sure that whatever it is that is actually coming out of this is actually in line with the context that we're in and in line with our information. I think that like detail and grain size is not really clear in this, but I think I have some hopes and dreams about what I want to accomplish in this district and why I was drawn to this district. And so those things really lie within that, ensuring that we're centering the voices and the needs of our most historically marginalized communities. And so part of how I've even engaged in this process is starting, again, with our students and starting with our students who have been most historically marginalized within this community and within all communities. So I think what didn't make it into this plan is maybe grain size. However, I think what I will find out from this is probably what my hunches are already. I know that there is some things around just what we need to do in terms of curriculum, what we need to do in terms of like choosing an assessment that's a screener for learning, for reading difficulties. Those things are kind of like of course we're doing that. That's just part of the job that I do. But I think that, you know, again, there are some passions and some hopes and dreams that I have that I hope will bubble to the surface in terms of the context of this community. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, well, you don't know what you don't know. It's just part of what I heard there. My other question / comment is like kind of what do you need as I think about you're reaching out, what do you need from the board, the district, stakeholders, educators, what have you, in order to be successful with this? Because again, lots of stuff. So how do we as a community help you be successful?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think first of all, I want to know the truth. And, you know, each person's truth is their truth. And so I want to hear from each person and each group what their truth is. I also would like to, one of the things, and I led with this in my first week, integrity and transparency are incredibly important to me. And so I want to make sure that through this process, I'm being held to being transparent. And so if there are things that don't feel transparent, I want people to share that with me so that I can make sure that I'm being transparent. The other thing is just a willingness to come and, you know, spend some time with me and have conversations. I also think it's important to I'm basically asking for questions when I come. So maybe come if you're gonna have a conversation with me, come prepared. The 4 questions I'm asking are: what do you love about Albany? Would never want to see change. And when I say Albany, I mean the district. The second is what do we need to think about changing? The third is what is it that you always wished you could tell a superintendent that you haven't been able to tell them? And then the last one is basically, do you have any questions for me? Because it's also an opportunity for people to get to know me. So if you have things that are really important to you, it's a good time to bring that. And I also want to say this isn't going to be the only time that I'm spending time with people. This is just the start of that process. I may not be able to do one-to-ones with as many people regularly as I'm doing in these 90 days, but I will definitely try to continue to do as many one-to-ones as I can as needed.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, back to public comment. Mary, would you like to?
Hi, Nair Castillo-McIntyre. Nice seeing you again. And you've been with the district already for, it's going to be 2 months soon.
Just over 1 month.
But it's going to be 2 months soon.
You are right.
It'll be quick. And so, welcome, even if a little belatedly. I'm really excited about your 90-day plan, and especially the part about engaging with stakeholders. As you know, The district has a large proportion of students with disabilities, both with IEPs and 504s. And many of those students require someone to speak on their behalf, especially in the case of a student like my own child, one of them, who's nonverbal and uses a adaptive augmentative communication device. So I and members of the Albany Disability Squad look forward to meeting with you and talk about our hopes, our wants, and especially our students' needs, which need to be addressed. And we're fortunate to have the support of Director Brian Biggs. But of course, in order for him to be successful, he has to have the full support of his new boss. And so we're hoping that you can get behind the program and what we all hope to accomplish for our students. So thank you.
Any more public comment? Anyone in the virtual audience? So seeing none, we are going to adjourn that item and move on to item 13A, Independent Contractor Services Agreement between Albany Unified School District and Megan Sweet, and I'm handing that over back again to Superintendent Stone.
Yes, so I should have said this as one of the things that can be helpful to me, but I knew I was about to get to speak about this. So one of the things that I want to make sure that we are doing as I'm learning and growing and understanding what our context is ensuring that we have a really clear communication and community engagement process, not only for what I need to learn as a superintendent, but so that we're creating really strong school site plans that then help us to make sure that we have the right LCAP. As I said, next year, my goal is to have a robust strategic planning process, and we'll be talking again in the future about what that might look like and what support we might need to bring into the district to do that. But in the meantime, what I would like to do is contract with Your Three Eyes Consulting, who has worked with other districts on this, to do support of principals and site leaders, really kind of like more of not a principal coach, we'll talk about that another time, but more as a support to site leaders on how to do those community engagements while we're doing this budgeting and school site planning process in the next few months.
Does anybody have any questions about this contract?
Yes. I need 30 seconds before I can be ready.
Any other questions or comments in the meantime? From the board? No?
So I guess totally want to be supportive of your needs, new in this role, all of those things. Well, I was a little bit surprised to have this put in with this and no like other information in the Friday update to the board or anything else about this. It might not seem like a sizable amount of money in school district terms, but every dollar out of the general fund is a dollar that we're not spending like directly on students. And so I feel like a lot of the things that are in here are things that are already supposed to be being done by other people in other ways. I wasn't able to find enough about this consulting service either to make me be like, oh yeah, I have super confidence that this is the one that our district should be using. So if you have any more information on sort of those pieces, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that we want to make sure that we're spending all of our money strategically and in service of students. In the time that I've been here so far, I'm realizing that there are some professional learning needs around some of the things that this type of a consultant could provide. This consultant, any consultant, and if you want me to go back and do more of like a looking for others, I'm fine with that. I think at the end of the day, what we need is some support, not only for our principals, but also for our executive team on doing the community engagement process in a robust way. I will say the other part of this that I neglected to mention that I think is really important is that we also need to start engaging around a facilities master plan, because we have our school bond that we're looking at, and we want to make sure that program is driving our facilities and whatever we're putting into that facilities. And to Trustee Mahoney's point, a lot of people are going to come with a lot of different thoughts and ideas, and I think it's important to have people who maybe are not invested in it to help sort out some of that. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring somebody in who's from the outside. Again, totally fine with doing a broader search. But I do think that this is going to be an important thing, and timeliness is kind of a key, because we're starting our budgeting and school site plan process right now, and I want to make sure that these are all in alignment. And back to more information about this particular consultant. She has worked with small districts like ours previously, and I think that that's in her resume that she provided. And if not, I can absolutely get that information to everyone.
More of a comment, or I guess possible question is, when I read through the actual like deliverables and timeline and everything, I remember we were gonna do some of this stuff with Dr. Evans, and so that's kind of, I guess, surprised me as to why this was in the agenda and like where it's coming from. I wasn't sure if there was any changes that were made to that original plan, because we did agree to that plan as a board.
So my understanding is that Dr. Evans was going to mentor and support our new superintendent, but this is more of a site-wide kind of, I mean, if we look back at the budget and what's actually included here, with planning, just professional development, community engagement templates, site-based engagement, meeting facilitate. I mean, it's just much more, it's much broader than Dr. Evans was going to be mentoring kind of personally, rather than being strategic in terms of moving forward as a district.
Yeah, I mean, he and I had discussed that he wanted to continue working with the principals. We also brought in Michelle Sinclair under certain money to do professional development not that long ago. Yeah, and she knows, I mean, I get the wanting to be objective. And bring in like a third, like an objective person, but I also feel like we've had so much change recently, and we don't have a CBO yet, but we're gonna bring in someone to advise on financial decisions. To me, I have a lot of reservations around this. I'm seeing like, and I'm looking at her resume now, past clients Piedmont, okay. Are there more? Yeah.
Yeah, well, she did work with Pivot, which I think has transitioned, and so that was the job she did with districts and again, I can get more information about other districts that she worked with. I think that there's a difference, though, in what Michelle Sinclair is doing versus what Donald is doing versus what Dr. Evans is doing versus what this is, and this is very specific to the SIPSA, the school site planning process, and making sure principals are really supported and understand how to and have time to plan with somebody those community engagements. And when we're talking about community engagements, we're not just talking about school site council and PTA, but we're talking about really hearing from, again, the voices of the most historically marginalized communities. That said, they would be doing the engagements. She would be supporting them and understanding how to do that. And from my one-to-ones with principals so far, it sounds to me like they would like to have more support with something like this. And so to have somebody have the time to do that and the capacity and the skill is really what I'm looking for. Again, we can decide later if we want to do this, but timing is a little bit important right now since we're starting this process with SIPSAs.
I would love, before voting on this for me, because also we didn't have a review and discussion about it ever, so we just put it on as review and action, which is generally not a protocol that we like to follow because it doesn't give time to get things actually thoughtfully done. And I understand time is of the essence, but it always is in a school district, and so I feel like that's going to keep coming up. I would really want to see a little bit more about the tangible things she's going to give to our principals around that community engagement, because we've had endless discussions about this very topic for 5 years. I've been having those same discussions, and so I really would like to hear kind of what somebody has done that's been tried and true before we jump into the financial commitment and also just like that. And I also just really would like to make sure that whoever we do bring in is somebody that our community is going to be enthusiastic about working with and feel like they're on board with. And so I don't know anything about that, but just that's been important in the past.
Any more questions?
I just wanted to make a quick comment. So different perspective because I'm new and I'm not familiar with all of the stuff that's happened in the past. But when I read the plan last night and I read the proposal for the consultant, I was actually happy about it. As somebody who's done a lot of this kind of work in the private sector, it can be extremely useful to have somebody come in from the outside that's facilitating to an extent and making sure that the principals, we have 5 sites, but we're not, in my opinion, very cohesive, right? They're really separate schools and separate ideas. And again, I don't know anything about this particular person. I read what was available, but I think that if we have a good person and that person can come in and help facilitate the superintendent and all of the principals, that the outcome and the work product is going to be more efficient and likely better. So I support the concept. Again, I don't have an opinion about the person, but I think it could be money very well spent.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, can I just zoom in real quick? So annual calendar that includes key dates, deadlines, deliverables aligning to the LCAP and the SIPSA development and all of those things. Okay, sorry, just so if we're aligning to the LCAP and the SIPSA, and then how does that play into our executive cabinet members who are also responsible for the LCAP and the SIPSAs?
Yeah, she would be working directly with the executive cabinet members to help support them in this process. It's really more about the coaching and support and systems and documents that I think will help us.
Anyone else?
Sorry, it just, I think the biggest thing that just kind of threw me for a loop is just last year and this was more than likely prior to you joining, we had a lot of conversation around trying to minimize how many consultants we bring in, especially because that was where a decent amount of money was being spent previously, whether it was in our budget committee, even though we had a CBO, we were hiring a consultant to come run our meetings, and so maybe it's just a trauma response to money not well spent, but yeah, I feel like I would need to sit with this more and like have more information before I could like confidently make a decision on this one. It just, my immediate reaction to this item was a lot of surprise on why we're bringing in a consultant, especially like Trustee Davidson mentioned that when I looked at it, to me, there was a number of things that felt like they already fall under current staff, like whether it was executive staff or other staff. So I think between that and, you know, wanting to move away from consultants, I'm not necessarily against the idea of needing someone, just would need a lot more information before I could make a, you know, confident decision. Sorry.
Vice President Mahoney, anything from you? I mean, I'm inclined to think that this is not, in the scheme of things, the largest amount of money that we're spending. I'm also, I think the fact this is an outside person, we've talked about existing cabinet members or district staff doing this kind of work, but at the same time, I think having someone objective from outside, and I'm really keen to have everyone on the same page and, you know, aligned and cohesive, and I feel personally this is a good opportunity to just get things started on the right foot, get everyone on the same page, and I think, yeah, it's not sort of crisis, you know, urgent situation, but at the same time, I also think, you know, given that we would be informing SIPSs and, you know, the LCAP, this is clearly something that we would like to get, that is important to get moving now. The timeline kind of makes sense to me. So, sounds like we all have opinions, and whether we want to proceed with it or what we want to do in terms of what action we want to take. Are we comfortable taking a vote now to?
We first need to take public comment. And
Oh,
then-
yeah. No, I don't mean now. I just mean in terms of how we move forward. I just mean, are we feel that we can move forward with a decision,
No.
or do we want to?
My motion will be that we table this item for more information.
Okay, so before we get to that point, is there anybody in the public that would like to make a comment who's here? And
hi there, I'm Jen Gritman, and I'm one of ATA's co-presidents. And I would just echo some of the things people have said in terms of, I think some ATA members read this item and also were a little confused about spending money on this position. And again, I think that could be coming from some confusion around the current job descriptions of some of our cabinet members. And so I think clarifying, you know, were we to do this, if we could also, in conjunction with that, really have a better understanding of why these aren't under the job descriptions of some of our current cabinet members, I think that could be really helpful. Thank you.
thanks. And I did see a hand raised in our virtual audience, but that's been lowered, so I feel like that maybe is because their point. Let's back up now. Here we go. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen, and thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year. Thanks for being here. I appreciate all the comments shared, and I do agree with you, Trustee Hopwood, that in the scheme of things in our budget, this isn't major. I just wanted to throw out there for this larger conversation, whether things are decided upon tonight or in the future, that it did feel off-putting to a bunch of people that we're living in a year of so many cuts. And I mean, we just are custodial staff and lots of clerical staff and lots of tons of sections all over. And so to go outside, I'm not saying it's not even a good decision, and I understand reasons why it could be helpful, but to go outside on top of cuts, on top of a big staff, that's the part that feels difficult. And that's the part that feels confusing. And so I just wanted to kind of like frame it in what we've been living in at the sites and on the ground level. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we just need to make a decision about how we'd like to proceed. Go ahead. Yes, please do.
I don't know a lot about the person, but somebody said about how they worked with Piedmont, and I feel like Piedmont compared to like our district in size, it's comparable, but like within the district, they're not super similar, and I think it'd be better if there was somebody who came in who has focused on districts with students who aren't as seen in our district, because I feel like for Piedmont, like their English learners aren't very high, their percentage, their socioeconomically disadvantaged aren't super high, and their students with disabilities. And I think that if like to do something with a consultant, we should like do it with a district who has focused more on districts that have a larger percentage. I don't know.
I just wanted to add to, just to, Dr. Stones, you understand this. We've had a lot of there's been a lot of challenges around our professional development, and we had a position that was created under one-time grant money, but then it was changed and then changed again, and then it was doing professional development, but then not, and then people were like, well, it's not development that's helping us. So I think that that's kind of what I'm looking for is, if we're gonna spend this money on this, we need to be really clear. We really need to know what we're getting out of it and how it's supporting all the way, top down, bottom up, everybody. And I'll make my motion now. I move that we table the independent contractor services agreement with Megan Sweet, Year 3 ICE Consulting Services.
I'll second.
So we've changed the motion. So that's where we're at now is whether we want to table it, and I'm actually going to vote also to table it. Yeah, so you already, yeah, we can do a roll call.
Student trustee Shepherd,
Yes.
student trustee Devdar,
I don't really know much about this, so is it possible to like abstain?
You could just vote, you're just voting to table the item and bring it back later, or you're voting that we're gonna make a different motion right now. So that's all you're voting on.
Right, so yes to tabling it.
okay? Vice President Mahoney,
Yeah.
President Hopwood,
Yes.
trustee Anklis,
Yes.
trustee Khan,
Yes.
trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion has been tabled, so we will get that on an upcoming agenda with some more expanded explanation and options. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So now we are moving on to item 14, superintendent and board member reports. Where are we starting this week, Julie, with the, are we doing a different order? Are we starting?
We tabled it.
Usually starts with the superintendent and then goes to.
Again,
Yeah.
to consent. Yeah. There we go. No, I didn't touch anything. It was,
They muted themselves. I think we can. Yeah, there's no mute.
No, we didn't. No, it's all worked out before. It's fine. I think we're good. We're good. Okay, so yes, superintendent board member reports.
I do feel like I did most of my board report already tonight. So I'm actually going to cede my time.
I am new. I have not had any meetings yet. I am very happy to be here, and Happy New Year, and I will also cede my time.
So I have a laundry list. Sorry. The intent to return forms have gone out at Ocean View. So whether your student is returning or not, we still would like you to fill this out so we can have a early head count of how many potential students will be returning or not. This went out on Parent Square and is on the portal. So it took me literally 2 seconds to fill mine out. It's like 3 questions, I think. Secondly, we have on January 23rd, a school site council meeting at 4 p.m. On January 24th, we have coffee with the principal at 8:30 a.m. in front of the school. January 31st, we have our annual Ocean View Dance Party at the Multipurpose Room at 5 p.m. It's open to all Ocean View families, and our fourth grade teachers and parents will actually be selling food and baked goods to fundraise to help offset the costs of our Angel Island field trip. This is a trip that happens every year, but we just want to make it more affordable for families. We also have the API Parent Engagement Group's Lunar New Year celebration on February 9th from 4:30 to 7 p.m. at the Ocean View Multipurpose Room. Please bring a dish that you would like to share. It's potluck style, and we'll have a number of performances from some of our after-school programs, some at the high school clubs, and a number of others that will be performing. It's always a fun event, and yeah, come through for that. And then lastly, we have Coach Renee is piloting a small program called the Let Grow program, and it's just a program that helps students build leadership skills, confidence, and just overall pride and joy in themselves. And we are currently seeking volunteers for this program, so feel free to reach out to Coach Renee to help facilitate this program. That is all.
Okay, other than the fact that the 100th day of school is the day after my 40th birthday, wow, and there's a craft fair at Cornell on the 8th, I'm really excited about something else, something that has been so close to my heart for so many years. There's a new water fountain at Cornell. When I joined the board, my classroom looked right at the water fountain, and it was most of the time clogged, not really usable, and there weren't enough. And then all the other school sites got water bottle fillers and all these things, and poor Cornell didn't get anything. And now they're catching up. So small little things just make me really happy. Sometimes it's a water bottle station and a drinking fountain, and so I'm really excited about that.
Tough act to follow. Couple things. This was last week. I attended the Citizen Budget Oversight Committee. As the aforementioned bond passage and approval by the board, there's a real need for members. So I would encourage anybody who has an interest in this, that this is an incredible opportunity to get engaged. As we've got some big decisions to make, and it's an incredibly important role that we've got for the members of the community. Somebody is so excited, they're on their way now.
They're coming right in.
Yeah. I also want to give a shout out to the Albany Children's Center, and special thanks to Director Reed, who hosted me today, and definitely always a bundle of joy and brightness to your day to see those kids at that center, which is really, really great, a real asset of the district. And then just a couple of quick Marin heads up. PTA is doing summer camp auction that is live now, so get your vote in, or get your bid in, I guess is the right way to say it. And the talent show sign up for the Marin Talent Show is January 22nd, so if you haven't signed up yet, or you haven't gotten your kids signed up yet, get on that, because it's coming up.
Right, not much to report. The school site council meeting at the high school is this coming Thursday, and then on the 30th of January is the first Student Achievement Committee meeting of 2025, and 3rd of Feb will be the next high school PTSA meeting, followed by the 6th of Feb will be the Instructional Improvement Council meeting. Also, we're in the process of, we had slightly kind of reorganized our committees, board committees and staff committees, so they're all kind of getting up and running at the moment, so there hasn't been much activity in those yet, but that's everything for me. I think tomorrow also is a senior panoramic photo, isn't it? Yay. Great, at the high school. And that's it for the board reports. Now moving on to item 15 is future agenda items. Does anybody have anything for that other than what we just tabled? Go for it.
So you thought if I moved over here, I would not add as much, but I'm still going to just keep it coming, okay? We emailed back and forth about this, but when we had a resolution a little while ago for our our land acknowledgement, there was a question about flying different flags. And then I saw a really great article about how a district handled this, so I would just like us to revisit that, maybe review some of that information. And I just don't want to drop things that we said that we would follow up on.
Anyone else for future agenda items? Of course, we will bring back the Megan Sweet contract or some form of that as well.
And the other post-employment benefits conversation.
I don't know, well, I guess we would need the board policy meeting first, the board policy committee meeting first, but we did have some policies that we had tabled last year that we still need to bring back. I don't have the, I mean, we can find them in the agenda from last time.
Yeah, so that is imminent, the first board policy meeting. I think Trustee Inglis and I am going to serve on that, and we've been in conversation with Superintendent Stone, so we have that. It's all in hand.
I think it's we're looking for the interdistrict transfer policy. We need to approve that, and I think there's I don't think we haven't approved that. I don't think it's come to the board formally yet. I could be mistaken. And then, the interdistrict transfer policy?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to go back and look at that one again because I feel like that's one that was worked on for 3 years. So, and then we did the independent study amendment. Dr. Brill was working on that. Okay, so that's just another one to look at.
Yeah, we definitely did that one. Yeah. Yeah. Any more? Okay. We are going to adjourn this open session. We are going to reconvene to closed session. We have 2 more items. I'm going to just read that part out again. So we will adjourn to closed session under the authority of the Brown Act, and we will be discussing personnel matters and potential litigation, and we will report back following adjournment of closed session. So this open session is adjourned. Thank you.